Simon Dean Winchester, this is your life. Now tell me if you recognize this voice. I was just hanging out, annoying teenagers, when these two handsome fellas break my house down. Sounds like Bloody Mary? You are correct. It's Bloody Mary from one of your first cases. Now tell me if you recognize this voice. Okay, I'm not much of a voice actor, so we're ending the sketch now. Needs to say, this episode was a fun game of Spot the Reference. So a bit like the boys, I've been on the road a lot, in a lot of transition, but I'm in my own bunker now. I don't know if I'll keep this table set up or go back to my old one, but new season, new place. Figure we'd go ahead and give it a new table too. And well, all I've ever asked for many seasons now is just a little continuity in the show. And apparently Dab did everything shy of driving out to my house in an Impala and scream, "Are you happy now?" Largely, yes. It was a treat to finally see things get brought up in context and callbacks that largely made sense. The demon being a Dean fanboy, that seemed a little forced, especially since it was using Jack's body at the time, and Jack was the Dean fanboy, so there's a bit of a double layer of meaning there, but most of the other shout-outs worked. Probably what bugged me most, and I'm doing a bit of a hint at it here, is how bright the episode was. Its lighting really contrasted sharply with the flashbacks the episode showed us of earlier seasons, and boy, do you remember how dark those were. Not that I'm against brightness in and of itself, but when the ghost started appearing, yeah, she's going to be my ghost this review, the light did not help their effects. I am curious if there is some kind of artistic aim here. If the showrunners are trying to convey that maybe the Winchesters are embarking on a brand new day or something. Regardless, Bloody Mary, the woman in white, they did not look right in the bright sunlight. Mary herself was played by the exact same actress that she was, 14 years ago. But she looked totally different. Almost more like a cosplayer at a convention than an actually menacing ghost. Again, I understand it a little. With all the locations in this episode and all the extras that they had, this was probably a budget breaker. We're lucky we got any special effects in it at all. But part of me kind of wishes they had put a little bit extra into making the ghost seem otherworldly, like they did back in the day. The fact of the matter is, the ghosts just don't really belong in the sunlight. I thought Alexander Calvert did a good job playing, Crowley Jr., and let's face it, right now, that's pretty much exactly what he is. I am curious how the writers are going to make him distinguishable from Mark Sheppard's role, if they bother to do that at all. There's a lot of potential here, and Alexander pulls it off very well, but the proof is always in the 4th, 5th, 12th time he appears. Then we'll know whether he's a real character or just a repeat. Regardless, kudos again to Mr. Calvert for doing a pretty decent job playing him, and I am curious how they handled his eye effects in those scenes. Did he have a kind of prosthetic over them, making him functionally blind? Or did poor VFX artists have to paint frame by frame over his own peepers? If someone finds out, please let me know. I did laugh a little in this episode when we have Sam and Castiel. They're walking down the street and talking about taking different sides of it in this residential neighborhood, and then we perceive that they only check out 2 houses before declaring the area cleared and running off. The show talks about billions of ghosts running free. I think you may need to check maybe a dozen houses to see if anybody else was in trouble. Again, probably a concern with budget and with time, but I wish there was a sign of them putting in a little more effort to convey the scale of their issue. While Crowley Jr. is telling Dean about just how bad it all is, it undercuts it when these two guys are just having to run away from a half dozen ghosts. At some point, you need at least 100 or more chasing after them. But then again, even back in season 5, the show had issues conveying the scale of the apocalypse, and I won't argue. Trying to convey the big idea Supernatural wants to on a TV budget is pretty daunting, but I think they can often rise up to those challenges and figure out tricks around it. The discussion of Michael possibly being loose, the real true Michael, I think I'm just so burned out on that whole story from the previous season, which was not executed. Let's be honest. It had interesting ideas and moments, but overall it really needed some refinements. If I was like an English teacher grading a creative story by Andrew Dabb that was season 14, I'd be like, dude, this is a C minus. You need to give some more passes over it, do some editing. Will Adam Winchester come back? I may have to get another figure for him if he does. Will we get to see Dean act some more as Michael? Are they going to bother making him more distinct than the other? I am hoping that they do something with him this time, and that it's not just a repeat of the previous season. But we've also only got 20 episodes, and there is some pretty big ideas they're trying to tackle this season. They may not have time to get around to it. All in all, I'll give this episode some salt shells that I'm currently missing. Well, until I find them, we'll say it's 3 salt shells out of 5. This is one of those where it's really high in some parts and pretty low in others. You have great continuity, decent acting from most participants, but there are some not great special effects. The lighting does not help with the ghost aesthetic. There is some question exactly how much we're going to repeat the previous season's mistakes, but I will admit, depending upon how the season goes, this could easily get 1 or 2 additional salt shells if the season really pans out. If they make the story tight, really develop everything great, then the faults of this episode we can just chalk up to the problems of TV and budget. And I don't like to hold that against the show if they've at least made an effort. So, color me cautiously optimistic.